Hello, everybody. Welcome back with the Wine Thursday. So we are back with the, usual format. So obviously, the cozy autumn evenings are again here. So we're going to have much longer discussion. We're going to dive into certain arguments a little bit more, and hopefully, it will be very interesting for everybody. And we are going to have a lot of also a lot of participants to the discussion. Anyway, thank you so much for all the people that are joining the live stream and also watching the replay. I mean, where the replays are going always very, 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 very well. So I'm so thankful for the support that you're giving to us. And also, it's our goal to create a community, a wine community, and is going very, very well. And we're super happy. So hope you're doing fine. And obviously, I'm going to give a couple of minutes to the people to join us for the discussion. And if you have any type of question or comments, just let us know. There's the live chat. I will be super happy to answer to the people that are interested in asking something. So today we are going to treat an argument that obviously it's very, very important, which is the malolactic fermentation. And in the previous past weeks we spoke about the harvest time, the vinification and fermentation, and so we basically spoke about the moment where we were like selecting grapes in the vineyard, and then the selection before the pressing moment, and all the procedure, fermentation, the overall vinification process. Now we're going to discuss about what it will happen later after the fermentation process. So we're going to discuss about what it will be also the future for our wine at this point that is fermenting, that is finishing the fermentation now. But before we actually discuss about that argument, I'm gonna show you some picture of the last harvest that we're really proud of. 2022 it was a very diverse and different kind of vintage, a bit I would say challenging and difficult, but in the end we make it. We had beautiful grapes. We're going probably to have wines that are going to be very truthful to the vintage. A little bit muscular, a little bit bigger than the usual, and probably also wine that at the end of the day will reflect anyway our terroir, but will speak truly to this specific vintage. And anyway, what we want to underline, we had very healthy grapes at the end of the day, and we're super happy about it. I'm going to show you some pictures, and you will see that the grapes are super beautiful, very healthy, not much problem. We didn't produce much, but it's not a problem for us. Actually, we always prefer quality over quantity. Unfortunately, quantity and quality never goes together, so sometimes we need to select a lot, and to give up a very big portion of our production. But it's always better to maintain our high quality standard than producing a little bit more. Just to let you see, this is a picture of the last step of the selection, which is immediately right before the pressing moment. As you can see, there's some dry ice. This is done to maintain the integrity of the fruits, of the grape berries, and at the same time to prevent any change in terms of temperature. This is a picture of the tractor in the field that he was helping to collect the basket full of grapes. And these are some of the people that were harvesting by hand, as you can see in the fields. So for us, it's also very important to share with you those little moments that we live throughout the harvest, and because it's very important, again, for us to find a connection with you and to show you a very special and important moment for us. So this is obviously the heart of everything, the harvest, and the moment when basically a new cycle start. We start to make a new wine, so that's very, very important for us. Others, this was a very, very important moment for us. The harvest we had, then also the slow wine award as a Vinous Law for the Reserva 2016 that will be out in a couple of years. This is actually the picture of our wines at the Slow Wine Festival. So it was a very fruitful moment. We had actually probably a new project that is going to start with Elena Morlacchi, which is one of the champions of MasterChef, and we had a lovely time with her in Montemagno last week. So as you can see, it's a full moment for the Fattoria, and I wanted also to share those moments with you. But now, since we give a little bit of time to people to join, I would like to start to introduce today's arguments, which is again the malolactic fermentation. Before we actually speak about the malolactic fermentation in the specific, I would like to start from the alcoholic fermentation. Let's try to define in a nutshell, very quickly, what's the alcoholic fermentation. Alcoholic fermentation is just that moment in which the juice will be transformed into the actual wine. And how is it happening? So we got Saccharomycetes cerevisiae, which is the family of yeast that is in charge, that is responsible for the fermentation. It is going to transform the sugar into alcohol with the alcoholysis process. Usually it lasts about 2-3 weeks. And during the alcoholic fermentation, the yeast release heat and carbon dioxide. Obviously, after the end of this process, the juice is completely transformed in alcohol, and it's finally wine. The sugar is completely transformed in alcohol, and the juice is finally wine. After this moment, we had obviously other operation to do, other situation that happen in the cellar, and one of these, of course, obviously, is the malolactic fermentation. So now, before I start, obviously, to share with you also some infographic and so on, let's try to define what is happening. Malolactic fermentation is also called conversion or malolactic transformation, since, to be strict, it is not a true fermentation, but it's, from a chemical point of view, a decarboxylation reaction, which is basically the transformation of an acid group from the malic acid molecule into water and carbon dioxide by the lactobacteria oenococcus oeni and lactococcus lactic. While the malic acid is transforming into lactic acid. The formation of CO2 can also make the wine slightly fizzy, but this recedes spontaneously with aging. So basically, in a nutshell, to summarize what I said, this was like a very, geek moment. This is for all the people that are really into wine chemistry. But to summarize, it's just like the transformation from the malic acid into lactic acid. And so how malolactic fermentation is achieved? Malolactic fermentation is an event, as I already said, is a following event to alcoholic fermentation, and therefore takes place in the context of wine aging and ripening, and can follow both white and red vinification. Now, what's a red vinification and a white vinification? Vinificazione in rosso, as we say in Italiano, and vinificazione in bianco are basically two different types of vinification. With the white vinification, the skin and the juice remain in contact, are not remaining in contact, and so you don't have the passage of the coloring substances from the skins into the juice. While the red vinification, you got the full contact of the skin and the juice for the entire fermentation moment, and sometimes even a little bit before or after. And you have a lot of passage of coloring substances into the juice. So again, just to clarify, white vinification, no contact between skin and juice, so no passage of coloring substances. Red vinification, full contact of skin and juice for the entire fermentation or more. And so you have passage of the coloring substances from the skins into the juice, because the coloring substances are always coming from the skins. If you don't keep in contact skin and juice, for example, of red wine, you're going, or a red grape, you're going anyway to produce a white wine. So coming back to the malolactic fermentation. So basically lactic acid bacteria, due to the temperature rise that usually occur in spring, trigger malolactic fermentation of the wine. For malolactic fermentation to start, the following conditions are necessary. First of all, not excessively low pH of the wine, which means not excessively acid wine, low concentration of sulfur dioxide, ethyl alcohol less than 15%, and temperature between 18 and 20 degrees Celsius. Now, obviously, I spoke about springtime temperature, but generally speaking, we don't always wait until springtime. You can also, warm up the temperature of the tank, and you can just let's start the malolactic fermentation this way. And also sometimes that even naturally in springtime, the malolactic fermentation is not going to happen for whatever reason, and so you have to thermoregulate the tank anyway to give a push to the process. So during malolactic fermentation in wine, malic acid, which is more sour, just to speak in practical term, is transformed into lactic acid, which is, say, weaker than the malic and perceived as milder and less sour. Basically, when it comes about, also the climate, it's also clarify what is happening in different climatic region. In temperate or warm climates, malolactic fermentation tends to occur spontaneously in red wine, which generally benefit from it depending on the style desired, let's say. If the wine is to be mature in wood, many producers believe that there is a better and more harmonious integration of the tertiary aromas, which are the aromas that are coming then from the aging process, in wine, obviously, when the malolactic fermentation takes place in the barrel. To achieve malolactic fermentation, as with the alcoholic fermentation, one can rely on bacteria naturally present in the most and reactivated by changing environmental condition, or you can use selected bacterial strains, as we said before, belonging to the genera of oenococcus or lactobacillus. Now, generally speaking, we prefer not to inoculate, not even for the malolactic fermentation. For sure, not for the alcoholic fermentation. We never inoculate for that. So, organoleptic effect of malolactic fermentation. Lactic acid bacteria tends to metabolize not only malic acid but also residual sugar if they are still present in the most after alcoholic fermentation. Any case, when it comes about the main impact of malolactic fermentation from an organoleptic point of view on any type of wine is reduced basically its acidity. Lactic acid, being weaker acid than malic acid, give this more, let's say, round kind of perception to the wine. Malolactic fermentation gives the wines more balance and persistence, body and fine aromas. Herbaceous tones become less pronounced, and nuances of walnut, vanilla, spices, leather, and toast are accentuated. It is mostly used in red wine, but has recently been introduced in more important white wines as well, which are, which require great softness. It is not used, generally speaking, in younger, fresher white wines, which are expected to be characterized by a greater acidity. And so now let's try to also look in detail when it comes about red wines, white wines, rosé, and orange wine. What are the the differences? So red wines produced in cool climate areas have rather high acidity levels. The reduction of acidity in these cases can positively influence the taste of the wine, making it more pleasant, round, and complex. The lactic acid bacteria then produce products, various aromatic compounds, that can enrich the organoleptic profile of the wine. Most of these wines are thus improved by malolactic fermentation. However, malolactic fermentation is not particularly suitable for certain varieties with low anthocyanin content, as it tends to reduce basically this forte, resulting in a loss of color, and tends to diminish the primary fruit aroma, such as, for example, raspberry and strawberry, as all the fruity components that we perceive in a wine. Thus, for varieties such as Pinot Noir, this effect may not be desired. So this is very important also to notice. You want to use certain cellar practice. You want to make certain kind of choice, just if it's really required by the type of grape variety or the type of pedoclimatic environment where you're working. So also different region of the world are going to, the winemakers are going to make different choices. So anyway, on the other hand, red wine produced in warm climates have lower acidity level, although this also depends on the characteristic of the grape variety which is used. So let's say consider that the major organoleptic effect of malolactic fermentation is to soften the wines and reduce acidity. It is not generally beneficial for this type of wine. Let's make some example. For example, Swan Valley Shiraz or Nero d'Avola from Sicily, after malolactic fermentation, will certainly be perceived as even softer and more complex in this sense. But there's also the risk that they will sound a little bit more like flat, a little bit flatter due to the lower perceived acidity. So again, here you need to calibrate a little bit the choice. In same thing as we were saying before, with the cooler climate production wines. So it's true, you're going to lower the acidity, which is particularly high in some cases, but you need to also to calibrate a little bit the decision. And it's the same in the warmer climate. I'm not saying obviously that malolactic fermentation is not good. It's necessary, but in certain specific cases, which are of course the majority of the cases. But you again needs to calibrate that decision, like everything in winemaking. So one of the as I said, one can decide also to make malolactic fermentation in this case when it comes about the warmer climate wine production. But again, you have the risk to have a little bit like a flat wine with very low acidity. Anyway, one of these technique used in this case is to let wine go undergo malolactic fermentation and then compensate for any negative effect by adding tartaric acid until the optimal acidity level is obtained. For example, to again recalibrate, rebalance the situation. Anyway, this is a choice that I'm sure just few winemakers wants to do, because obviously it's not so, you're going a little bit to manipulate too much probably the wine at this point. So now let's speak about malolactic fermentation in white wines. Malolactic fermentation is less frequent in white wines than in reds, obviously, since white wines have their strengths in primary aromas and pronounced acidity profile. So you want, especially from some varieties, to have that beautiful acidity backbone in those white wines. So you don't really want to make malolactic fermentation. So all those kind of characteristics are partially obscured by malolactic fermentation. We already said it before. So moreover, since white wines are produced with produced skin contact, malolactic fermentation tends to occur also spontaneously sometimes. So you need also to again, even here, calibrate everything. Anyway, for white wines producing cool climate zones, malolactic fermentation is generally prevented in order to maintain the wine's pronounced acidity profile. Obviously, again, we said cooler climate, higher acidity; warmer climate, generally speaking, lower acidity. Anyway, for white wines produced in warmer climate zone, you want, obviously, malolactic fermentation is not beneficial because for the same reason it would reduce a lot the acidity. So again, even here, the same idea as before, you want to calibrate the decision. One of this type of white wine that can benefit from malolactic fermentation is certainly the Chardonnay. In combination with fermentation and aging in wood, malolactic fermentation give the wines considerable complexity and will give this rich, creamy, buttery taste that is particularly appreciated in some markets, especially, for example, in the American market. Chardonnay is, however, a very versatile variety that can also be vinified in a crisp, fresh style without wood, and then obviously without malolactic fermentation. For white wines, partial malolactic fermentation can also be used to give a wine a certain complexity and richness, while only partially reducing its freshness and the acid profile. When it comes about sparkling wines, the choice of whether or not to carry out malolactic fermentation depends very much on the climate characteristic of the production area. In cool climates, areas such as Champagne, cuvées are often, undergo malolactic fermentation. Could be complete or partial to acquire greater complexity, generally speaking. On the other hand, in areas with warmer climate and where the grapes ripen early, malolactic fermentation is preferred to be avoided in order to ensure greater freshness and vivacity in terms of the wines. Now, rosé and orange wine. Similar to white wines, malolactic fermentation in rosé wines is practices when it's looking for a more complex wine, or richer, and again, more round style, for example, like Cervasuolo d'Abruzzo. While malolactic fermentation is avoided when looking for a fresh, pale, delicate rosé, for example, made in a very, very more like delicate kind of style, such as Bardolino rosé, for example. Orange wine. When it comes about orange wine, orange wines are wines made from white grapes vinified in red, let's say, with a long soak, with a long contact, prolonged contact with the skins. So orange wine being close to red wines in terms of organoleptic profile, although I'm not very, I'd say probably this is not the best definition, but anyway, in terms of complexity. Like they have certain characteristics, like for example, such as presence of tannins, can in many cases benefit from malolactic fermentation, gaining more stability in general, and then obviously like more pleasant overall profile and more complexity. Anyway, this is obviously a very interesting kind of topic, and this is an infographic that I saw from Quattro Calci. I couldn't find anything in English, unfortunately, but as you can see, malic acid that give this kind of like profile, you see the apple, the green apple, you really perceive green apple when malolactic fermentation is not done, and then you got this transformation in from the organoleptic perception, like a much more round and buttery and creamy kind of notes. This is what is really going to happen in a nutshell. So you see everything that is happening, both in the, in cellar and all the cellar practice, but also in the field before, is going to have a tremendous impact when it comes out the wine. Now, you also hopefully learned more about malolactic fermentation, and so at this point, you just have to, what kind of style of winemaking you prefer more, what kind of wine in general you prefer more. Remember, wine is something super personal, so it's up to you to decide what you like and what you don't. But it's very important to be, to educate yourself in terms of, what are the winemaking practices as well, because it will help you to become a smarter drinker, I would say, and to understand a little bit better what you like, and most importantly, why you like something. Anyway, for today is everything. I hope you enjoyed this wine discussion. Thank you so much for joining me, and see you next time. Cheers.